So if I was feeling hopeless, I think that's a good one. If I was feeling unmotivated, if I was feeling stuck, my certainty would be like a 5 or below out of 10.
One of the reasons why we're able to do 700 episodes talking about holistic self-improvement is because we don't need as much variety. That's why that's a superpower for us. If you do need variety, that's okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of Next Level University, where we teach you how to level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. Great work. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode. It was last week's live podcast, episode 694, dealing with the growing pains of change. Today, for episode number 695, what your feelings actually mean. So Alan and I were deciding what episodes to do, and I said, I've been listening to this book, Marshall Rosenberg, Nonviolent Communication. He talks about the fact that all a feeling is a need either being met or not being met. So my analogy for this, Alan and I were on a plane ride, oh my goodness, maybe 2 years ago, pre-COVID, and I was losing my mind. Super uncomfortable, super anxious. Every single time I heard a noise, it was like, oh my God, this is it. Every time, you know how if they need a flight attendant up front, they ring the button?
Yeah.
Every time I'm like, that must be them calling the flight attendants to tell them that we're doing like a crash landing. It was this whole thing. It was brutal for me. But what I did was the next time we were getting ready to fly, I went on YouTube and I searched why do the pilots slow down the engine after takeoff? That's what I started with. And then I went down this rabbit hole of flight videos and an understanding of what's happening. And there's different kinds of landings and different kinds of takeoffs and different kinds of everything. In the moment that we're on the plane, the need I'm not getting met is certainty. And we'll go through the needs. I'll let you go through the needs. The feeling I feel is anxiety. I don't feel certain that I'm going to survive this. Naturally, I'm anxious. So what did I do? I went on YouTube and I got more certainty. I got a deeper understanding of how planes actually work. Okay, before we went to Colorado, I literally Googled the odds of being in a plane accident, a plane crash.
What are they?
It's
curious.
astronomically low, yeah. I don't remember. But I also learned...
It's way lower than a car crash. I know
that. Yes. But also the most plane crashes, for anybody out there who's afraid of flying, this will be good. Most of them are during takeoff and or landing, and 90% of all plane crashes don't have any deaths.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Didn't know that.
See, information can be powerful when you use it. So I want to make sure that I talk about the 6 human needs. So every emotion is an indicator that a need is actually being met. Positive emotions mean a need is being met. Mm-hmm. Negative emotions mean a need are not being met. Here are the needs. Number 1, and again, this is Tony Robbins. His TED Talk is absolute fire. Best TED Talk I've ever personally watched. Changed my life, life-changing. Okay, first one, certainty. We already talked about that. Second one, variety. Uncertainty/variety. I like to call it variety. Third one, significance. Fourth one, love and connection. Everyone needs connection. Most people settle for connection because love is too scary. So, again, Tony's words. The 2 that most people aren't aware of and aren't necessarily chasing proactively is the ones that we focus on in this podcast, growth and contribution. Kevin tells the story about how he was basically in the kitchen, completely broke, but for the first time in his life, he felt valuable and fulfilled, even though externally he wasn't nearly as successful as he was 2 or 3 years prior. And the reason why is because he was focused on growth and contribution through this podcast. Mm-hmm. And so every emotion is a signal. It's a signal trying to tell you something. If right now I felt anxious, which I don't, that would probably tell me that I'm uncertain about something. Maybe I think the audio is going to mess up, or I think that Kevin's upset with me, or whatever. And so remember, all of us are trying to meet our needs. That's not a bad thing. But are we doing it effectively? And are we listening to our emotions and then acting on those emotions effectively?
I think, again, social media is a great example of this. Social media I don't think it makes people better or worse. I think it gives people an opportunity to meet their needs in a different way.
Right.
So I used this analogy during a speech and somebody reached out and said, hey, that was kind of a rough analogy. I'm not sure if you meant to use it this way. And I said, no, that wasn't my intention. I know from experience that this is something people do, but I'll frame it this way. If you've ever posted a picture in either, I don't know, a tight shirt, a loose shirt, whatever made your body look a certain way, were you doing it for significance? Were you doing it so people would reach out and be like, hey, you looked really good in this picture? I know there's people that I follow who they change their profile picture every week to something in a bathing suit or in front of a car or on vacation. They're not doing it because they want to show you the vacation they were on. They're doing it because that vacation makes them feel significant. Right? That's what likes, shares, more often than not, that's what they are. They're helping to make you feel significant. And I just think it's an important distinction, because if you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, if you're only doing it for a certain feeling, you don't know the need under it.
And it's going to keep perpetuating.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these base needs, okay, let's say you do post and you feel significant when you get likes, and everyone does. That's a losing game, because you'll never be able to actually, I don't think that's going to ever fulfill you. I don't know a single person, even people who are famous, talk about this. They're like, being famous is great for certain things, but it's not fulfilling. I've heard so many people talk about that. Matthew McConaughey talks about that. He says fame is a mistress, it's not a wife. And I understand what he's saying by that. What he means is, like, it might be pleasurable or fun to be famous, but it's not what you think it is. And Kevin and I, with the very, very small amount of fame that we have at this point, we can tell you too, like, it's not what you think it is. It's nice, and it definitely helps us grow and contribute at a greater level, which actually is fulfilling. But a lot of the likes and the comments and I personally like coaching one-on-one so much, and it's so much more fulfilling than, like, getting 400 likes on an Instagram post. I used to get way more likes back when I was doing fitness, and it was never actually as fulfilling as I thought it would be.
So this is what I used to do with my clients, and I used to do this with myself. When I woke up in the morning, so Alan mentioned the 6 basic human needs. I would literally go through them, and I would rate them all on a scale of 1 to 10. For me, I'm very certainty-driven, and then love and connection-driven after that. If I was feeling hopeless, I think that's a good one. If I was feeling unmotivated, if I was feeling stuck, my certainty would be like a 5 or below out of 10. So what that is telling me is I was feeling a certain way because that need wasn't getting met. Now, it can also go the opposite. If you wake up in the morning and you say, I'm a 10 out of 10 in my certainty, I'm not worried about anything, you might not feel motivated either.
Right.
Because you might not have the necessity that you once did to go, whatever, get the client, go to work, whatever it may be. So it's just a deeper understanding of your emotions, of your feelings, and how they manifest in your everyday life.
And again, this isn't necessarily about the 6 human needs. It's about every feeling being a need met or not. But I think it's important to touch base on this. Everyone has all 6 of these needs, but the first 4 are the needs of what Tony says, the needs of the human, and everyone finds a way to meet those first 4. Not everyone meets what he calls the needs of the spirit, which is growth and contribution. All of us have all 6, but we have them in different syntax, different orders. So Kevin is far more certainty-driven than I am, and I'm far more significance-driven probably than he is. He's more love and connection-driven than I am, and I'm more growth-driven than he is. So, for example, reading a personal development book in Next Level Book Club called The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth, that excites me more than Kevin, straight up. It just is what it is. Kevin will do it because he also wants to contribute more and wants to succeed on this podcast, wants to add more value to the listeners, but he's not as focused on it just for the learning. He learns more so he can contribute more. I learn more so I can contribute more too, but I also learn more because I'm very mastery driven. I want to grow to my maximum potential. So if you're out there, figure out what your syntax is. Do you need variety? Kevin and I will just say this. It is pretty drastic how little variety he and I need. When we travel, we do the same thing every single day. We go to the same event, we go to the same gym, we eat the same food, in the same hotel room, and we watch the same show, Friends. Every single time we travel, we do the same exact thing. One of the reasons why we're able to do 700 episodes talking about holistic self-improvement is because we don't need as much variety. That's why that's a superpower for us. If you do need variety, that's okay. Maybe you'll do something that we might not. I know that our girlfriends are far more variety driven than we are.
Yeah.
And so they help us expand. We help them refocus. We help them be more structured and consistent. They help us do things we normally wouldn't. So it's a yin and a yang. It's a beautiful thing. But it's important to understand, are you variety driven? Are you significance driven? Are you love and connection driven? You've heard us talk about physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. If you are emotional, you're most likely more love and connection driven and variety driven. If you are more mental, you're most likely more significance driven and growth driven. And if you're S, you're most likely all contribution.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Branden Lowe. I am the host of the Decide and Design podcast, and I'm also part of the NLU team. I wanted to give a shout out to Kevin and Alan real quick. So when I first started working for Kevin and Alan, they asked me, what kind of skills do you have? What can you bring to the table? And I was honest and transparent with them. I was like, I don't have a lot of computer skills. I don't have a lot of sales skills or business skills, but I'm willing to work hard. And they decided to take a chance on me and give me a huge opportunity based off of my character. And when they did that, that really showed me what types of people that Kevin and Alan are. I mean, amazing guys who really have been mentoring me, coaching me, and taking me under their wing and completely changing my life. I now host a podcast. I'm on the team. I'm connecting with amazing people, and I'm becoming the man that I was truly meant to be, and it's because of these two amazing guys. I have nothing but amazing things to say about them. I love you guys. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. And if you have the chance to work with Kevin and Alan, I highly, highly recommend it.
What's a theme for you looking back that presented itself as a feeling but was a need? Like, what is something that you dealt with?
I was super, super competitive in everything that I did. And I think deep underneath it, it was trying to maximize my growth, but it was more significance-based. So back when I used to be a semi-pro gamer, or I used to play basketball, intramural basketball, whatever it was, snowboarding, I always wanted to be better, and I would get really frustrated with myself when I would lose. So Halo, for example, I used to play competitive Halo. I was a little bit of a sore loser. And I used to tell myself it's because I love winning, but what I really was craving was probably significance. It probably made me feel significant to win. And I also think I wanted to maximize my potential. That's one thing that's never changed. No matter what I was doing, I always wanted to be the best I could at that thing, which I think is actually a beautiful blessing. But again, it's important to understand frustration. Frustration is an emotion that was telling me a signal. Hey, Alan, your need for significance is not being met. I wasn't hyper-conscious or aware enough to know that back then. Yeah. If I had known that, I wouldn't have allowed it to control me. I remember I got called out of hey, Alan, I want to do a shot competition with you, drinking shots of vodka. It was vodka and orange juice. And I didn't know this, but maybe my desire to compete in that was for significance. Maybe it made me feel significant to be able to outdrink my college roommate. In hindsight, if I had understood that, I would have probably made more positive choices.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think also, you and I, we joke back and forth, but there's definitely been times where one of us will strike a chord, like a certain chord. And I think if you're feeling a certain way, so you might say something that makes me feel like my love and connection with you is uncertain, and I might try to say something that makes you feel insignificant. Not even consciously, just knowing that's what you value. We have determined that many of our listeners we have many female listeners, many early entrepreneur listeners. You've coached many of them. What have you seen this for them? What are a lot of the feelings that they have that are actually needs being unmet that they would never, I don't want to say that they would never know are needs, but that they maybe didn't realize this until you guys talked about it?
Fire question, Kev. So
I don't know if you know this, I'm a professional
podcaster.
Professional podcaster.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Appreciate that.
One of the best, honestly,
I
in my opinion.
Also.
You're welcome.
Thanks. You're biased, though. You are biased.
No, yeah. Yeah, but I still believe it. I am accurate. All right, so a lot of our listeners have a feeling of, I would say it's social anxiety. And I think it comes from fear of not being loved and not feeling like you belong. And I feel like it stems from not feeling valued or safe. And usually it is in the form of anxiety. So there's someone who is a listener of our show, dear friend of the community, love her dearly, who has trouble speaking her truth at her job. Recently, she did such an incredible job at expressing her truth and really advocating for herself. There was a part of her job that she really didn't like, and she expressed it to her boss. I helped her do this. And she basically said to her boss, like, I didn't realize how much this was negatively impacting me, but it really is negatively affecting my life. I'm no longer really willing to do this anymore. I love working here, but if I were to continue doing this negative thing, I would have to search for other jobs, even though I don't really want to work anywhere else. I love it here, but this one part of my job is really affecting my mental and emotional health, and honestly my physical health too. She now has a little bit of anxiety at work because she's afraid to not belong. She's afraid to be ostracized from the tribe, so to speak. And she's working on it, and I'm so proud of her. But I would argue that need for love and connection is so high in her, and I feel like most of our listeners can probably resonate with that.
And I think in my life, there's literally certain people who, when they text me, I'm uncertain of what they're saying, so I try to create certainty by assuming it's going to be negative.
Interesting.
And I know that's something that a lot of people go through.
Can you give an example?
Yeah, and you know the story, but I had a client who was, let's just say, very pushy.
Oh, yeah?
Very minor freak out. And again, this person, I love this person, and this is also, and I'll go into that in a second quickly, but this person kind of freaked out on me and had some negative things to say, and I was like, okay, like, whatever. I don't even care if this person is a client anymore. And I still have a little bit of that, not triggering, but I have a little of that unconsciously still. So when I get a message, I assume it's bad. I just assume it's negative because I have such a trigger with that. So then in my mind, I'm uncertain of what it says, so I make certainty with saying, like, it's probably negative. And I think a lot of people do that, especially if you have anxiety. That's probably something you've done.
Why do you do that? Because you don't want it makes the blow less.
Yeah.
Right.
But then usually what happens is I open it, and then it's not
as bad as you thought.
Yeah.
Hey, we need to talk.
Right.
If you've ever gotten that from your
my
partner, and it's like you catastrophize.
Yeah.
And that's a thing. And I have that too with Emilia of like if she's like we need to talk or whatever. And I know it's not going to be bad. It's going to be great. It's going to be progress. But there is that like, wait, are we good? My need for certainty is so high with her in particular, and that's a whole nother thing because this is compartmentalized as well. But this was powerful.
Real quick, I just want to add a little bit of extra. So there was a story. The point of this book is to help with communication. So it's basically empathizing with somebody's feelings and understanding that when Alan gets to the studio and he's super overwhelmed, let me just use the example he uses. In the book, there's a young lady working at a detox place, and somebody like kicks down the front door and says, "Hey, I need a room." And she says, "Well, unfortunately, we don't have any rooms. I'm sorry, I can't help you." And he pulls out a knife, throws her on the floor, and holds a knife to her throat. And what Marshall in this book says is, if you start something with "but," it's probably going down a negative path. But we don't have any rooms tonight, but I can't help you. He said, what I always tell people to do in nonviolent communication is to really understand somebody's feelings. So the guy basically said, I'm so sick of being walked on, being looked down on because I'm an addict. Like, I'm a real person. Like, I'm a real person. I don't deserve to feel this way. And she said, so what I'm taking from this is you feel like people don't value you as a human. And she kept going with this. So what I'm getting is you don't feel like people care about you.
Right.
And it got to the point where the guy, after I think it was like an hour, got up and left. And she actually helped him find a place because she was able to de-escalate it. Listen to this book if you struggle with communication. It's very, very valuable, very, very important. I'm actually going to reach out to him and see if we can get him on because it's fire. But communication, we all do it. I don't think a lot of us study it, and myself included. I didn't for a long time.
And not all of us do it effectively. Very last thing I'll say, I remember when Tony Robbins said this, every time someone communicates with you, verbally or non-verbally, it is either a cry for help or a loving response. And it's really important to understand it's either love or an attack of some kind, a cry for help. And when you cry for help, sometimes people cry for help back and no one gets helped. So it's really important. Like in that case, that was a cry for help. And she did nonviolent communication to try to understand what need was underneath the action. I think that's absolutely critical, man.
It's a great book. I would definitely recommend it. We got to make sure, I got to check on the next episode to make sure you're in focus. See how when I pull this back,
yeah,
you get a little blurred? We got to make sure Jeff's in focus on the next episode. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are looking to start your podcast and it seems impossible, if you want to grow your podcast, you want to get clients, you want to make money, you want to scale it, please reach out to me. I am still taking on clients. We have a bunch starting, but I absolutely love podcast coaching, and I honestly, my goal is to be able to help people like I needed help early on. 700 episodes, Alan and I have learned so much, and I want to help you with your podcast.
And we promise you it will not take you 700 episodes to get to the level we're at, because we will help you accelerate that process. If you're an early entrepreneur, if you have started a business and want to grow and scale it online, or if you're thinking about starting a business, I was on the phone recently with someone who's like, I achieved all my dreams. I don't know what to do now. If you don't have direction in your career, business development, career development, I am your guy. If you are out there and you feel misunderstood by your peers because you want to dream bigger, you want to achieve more, you're an achiever, I am your guy. I will help you accelerate. I will help you get clarity. I will help you commit at a greater level. Next Level Business Solutions has had many, many clients lately, and I still have a few spots left, so please reach out. I'm super excited to help listeners. That's the main focus here, listeners of this show.
And I would love to say that our success is purely my doing, which it is to a great degree, but we are on track to be a multiple six-figure business, and 98.6% of that is due to Alan and his business acumen, so he can definitely help you get to the next level. I'm going to stop talking about you. Up next, we have last week's Q&A. How do I attract positive people into my life? We love you. We appreciate you. And as always, we do not have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.